1988, in one of my many meetings with my mentor, my college supervisor, Wilfred Knapp, beloved Wilfred Knapp, who became like a second father to me. Wilfred suddenly asked me out of the blue, "Have you met Isaiah Berlin already?" At that time, I was about a year at Oxford, and I answered, "No, I didn't." And then Wilfred asked me, "Are you interested to meet Isaiah Berlin?" I looked at him. I was amazed by the question. I said, "Are you joking? I mean, who wouldn't like to meet Isaiah Berlin?" So Wilfred chuckled a bit and he said, "Okay, so this can be arranged." And I said, "Okay." I was a bit surprised about the entire thing. And one day I'm going to my college, collecting my mail from my pigeonhole. And lo and behold, there is an envelope from All Souls College. I opened the envelope, and there's an invitation to come and meet Sir Isaiah in his room office at All Souls. He gave me a time and date and should be expected to be there. Okay, so on that date, I wore my best clothes that I had as a student, and on I went to All Souls, climbed the stairs to the second floor where Isaiah used to have an office. And Isaiah opened the door, all smiles, offered me to sit, and embarked on a conversation that lasted about an hour. It was more or less a monologue, more than anything else. He will ask questions, and then this is going to drive him to start a very long speech, then ask another question. I'll be very brief, and then he would embark on a very long speech and so on. So this is how it works. But it was delightful for me just to sit in his company and listen to him in his very heavy accent. "You know, when I was at Oxford at that time, life were very, very different. And studies also were quite different from what you know it today. I can give you many, many stories if you wanted." This was as happening. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that started a very long acquaintance between Isaiah and myself. And at one point, I decided that I'm going to pay back to Isaiah for his generous attitude to me all the years in Oxford. I left Oxford in 1991, but I used to come and visit at least once a year. And every time that I came until his death in 1997, Isaiah was always insisting that I should come and see him. He was deeply interested in Israeli democracy, in Israeli politics, in Israeli society, and he had firm views about everything pertaining to Israel. So he was very interested to know what is going on in the country that he cannot read in the newspapers, and we used to exchange views about the situation as it changes from one to another. And because of proximity in our views, it was also, um, you know, convivial. It was just nice to exchange ideas without any argumentation. So he cherished these meetings as well, not only me. And the last meeting was just a few months before he died. After his death, I instituted the Berlin lecture at the University of Haifa. And I've edited this book, Challenges to Democracy, Essays in Honor and Memory of Isaiah Berlin. And I want to say a few words about the book. I think it's a very interesting collection of essays. It has different parts. The first one is historical, and the historian Eli Bar-Navi speak about political assassination at the backdrop of the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. Jack Paul, another dear friend from my college from St. Cat's at Oxford, Jack was historian of United States of America. So he wrote about freedom of speech from privilege to right. And Arnon Gutfeld from the History Department at Tel Aviv, he wrote about loyalty, treason, seditions in the United States during crisis time. All three articles are very, very good, very interesting. The second part of the book is philosophical and sociological perspective. Aaron Ben-Zeev, who later became the rector and president of the University of Haifa, his field is emotions. He wrote about tolerance and emotions. Then Will Kimlicka, the Canadian philosopher, and myself, we wrote a chapter on democracy and multiculturalism. Another Canadian, Warren Kinsella, wrote on challenges to Canadian liberal democracy. Israel Prize laureate, the sociologist from the Hebrew University, Moshe Lisak, he wrote about dominant political culture and political mutations in Israel. And then the next part is about legal perspectives. And this part is as impressive as the former two parts. The legal scholar from the Hebrew University Law School, Claude Klein, wrote on Is there a case for constitutional dictatorship in Israel? The president of the Israeli Supreme Court at that time, Professor Aaron Barak, he wrote on freedom of expression and its limitations. My beloved supervisor and mentor from Queen's College, Oxford, Jeffrey Marshall, who was the master of the college, he wrote on the control of civil disorder in Britain. And I finished this part of the book with an article on reflections on administrative detention in Israel. A critique, I'm a first critique of the use of administrative detention. I think it's a contravention of basic human rights and it should be barred on most cases. Certainly Israelis use it as a punishment far too excessively. So it's a very critical chapter on the misuse of administrative detention in Israel. And then the last part is on political and media perspective. Oded Balaban, philosopher from the University of Haifa, he wrote on causes and results of political assassination, another article that deals with Yitzhak Rabin and his legacy in Israel history and Israeli politics. Shaul Satka, who was a commentator for Haaretz newspaper and taught at Bar Ilan University at that time, he wrote on Middle Eastern media coverage of Prime Minister's Rabin assassination. And Valerie Alia, Canadian who taught many, many years in Canada and United Kingdom, she wrote on the boundaries of liberty and tolerance in the Canadian North, media ethics, and the emergence of the Inuit homeland of Nunavut. All in all, a very nice tribute to Isaiah. I hope you appreciate and enjoy this collection. Thank you.